Hello friends. The title of this video is Does Humor Belong in Novels? Which is based on a Frank Zappa album title, Does Humor Belong in Music? And I wanted to do a video about kind of comedic books based on my thoughts about a novel that I just finished reading. It's called Mort by Terry Pratchett. It's the fourth book in the Discworld series and the first in the one of the subplots of that whole series, the storyline revolving around death. So let's get into it. I have been wanting to read the Discworld series for a while. I read years ago Good Omens, which is a book collaboration between Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, and I thought it was hilarious, and I really liked the book. I like Neil Gaiman a lot, and I thought I'd probably like Terry Pratchett as well. There's, I think, 41, 42 books in the Discworld series, so I was very daunted into getting into it. I didn't really know where to begin, but I got a recommendation that this was a good place to start, so I picked it up, and I read it. One of the things I like about it is the death storyline. Basically, the plot is a young boy is trying to look for an apprenticeship to start his career, and he ends up getting an apprenticeship with death and has to go around killing people, or at least ushering their souls off the plane into the next world. I love anything that has a personification of death in it. I think it's really, it's got reminiscent of old Grimm's fairy tales. It's got a lot of folklore in it. It's very kind of primal, and I like those kind of stories, so I thought I'd like this one. And I liked it okay. I enjoyed the book, but I wouldn't say I loved the book. And I was thinking to myself, why didn't I love the book? And I had some thoughts about kind of comedic books in general that I wanted to share with you guys. So, like I said, the story is about a young boy who apprentices with death. But the plot is pretty thin, and the characters are pretty thin, and the plot is mainly compelled by jokes, satire, humorous writing. That's sort of the bulk of, it's a pretty short book, about 300 pages, but they're small pages with big type. Most of the action is propelled by the humor, which I found somewhat unsatisfying. It was well written, and it was clever, certainly, but I didn't really laugh out loud at it. I didn't really, buy into it fully. And part of that might be that it's just not as funny as some of the other books I'd read, but I think there's more to it than that. Because I have read other books that have made me laugh out loud and that have been overtly comedic that I've thought are amazing and that I love. Like the examples I want to use in this video are things like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, The Princess Bride, and the P.G. Wodehouse series, the Jeeves and Wooster stuff. I always think that those books are hilarious and I like them a lot. So why didn't the Mort in the Discworld series satisfy me? I think it has to do with a certain shallowness of the humor. I think humor has to be grounded in some sort of emotional buying in to the story or to the characters. It has to be emotionally grounded. You have to care about what's going on. I remember there's one of the writers of The Simpsons, I forget which one, and one of the audio commentary tracks talks a lot about how having an emotional story with good characters that you can relate to and you can really buy into makes the jokes funnier, makes the jokes land better, makes you really buy into them and you'll enjoy them, and not only will you enjoy them more, you'll laugh at them more. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I think the reason why some books that rely on comedy are more successful than others is that they have some kind of hook to get you in, some kind of emotional hook, some kind of relatable hook where you can kind of empathize with the characters. I think empathy is a big part of this as well. For example, in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the first thing that happens is that Arthur Dent's house is going to be bulldozed. And the second thing that happens is Arthur Dent's planet is going to be bulldozed. Now, that's ridiculous, and it's silly, and it's comedic, but it's also very sad. There's a lot of pathos there. You're upset that Arthur's going to lose his house. He's a poor schlub. He doesn't deserve that to happen to him. And then you're upset that he's going to lose his planet. Nobody would like that. And I think you can really relate to Arthur and the emotions he goes through. And that kind of relatability makes the jokes funnier. And I think that's one of the reasons why Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is such a successful and enduring comedic work, is that not only Arthur is a sympathetic character, there's lots of sympathetic characters in there. You have Marvin the Paranoid Android, and you have Ford Prefect, and those people are people you can relate to. And then you have something like The Princess Bride, which is very silly and comedic, but it's got a lot of darkness to it. There's the whole framing story about the abridger, the guy who's supposedly taking the S. Morgenstern classic and trying to abridge it, and at the same time his marriage is sort of falling apart, and he doesn't like his kid who's too fat, and he's dealing with the legal estate of S. Morgenstern, and that's really dark, and it's very funny, but it's also very dark. And then there's all the suffering in the story itself. There's a lot of true love that goes wrong. Buttercup thinks Wesley's dead for a while. He says the line, "Life is pain. Anyone who says anything different is selling something." there's a lot of pathos there, and I think you can relate to those characters, and you can empathize with them, and you can feel their suffering. In the P.G. Wodehouse books I mentioned, Bertie Wooster I find an immensely relatable character. I think a lot of people can relate to him and understand the kind of fumbling travails of trying to get through life that he has. I'm reminded of a line from Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, where the Martian is trying to learn how to laugh. And for the whole book, he can't figure out, he doesn't understand humor, he doesn't get it. Finally, he comes to the revelation that he says, you laugh because it hurts. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. Everyone tries to correct him. Everyone says, no, laughter is a happy emotion. It's joyous. It's not sad. And he said, no, you laugh because it hurts. And I do think that there's something to that, because I think that these books that have a little bit of pathos, these books that have a little bit of darkness to them, things where they don't work out for the characters so well, things where you can put yourself in the character's place and think that might as well happen to me, or that has happened to me, or I can imagine that happening to me. I think that is where you really get comedy to succeed in literature. Whereas in Mort, I didn't really care about the characters that much. They were kind of shallow. The action was a little bit simplistic. And the jokes were funny, but I wasn't emotionally bought in the way I was to those other books I've referenced. And I think that's the difference between a successful comedic work and an unsuccessful one. So I probably won't be dipping back into the Discworld series too soon. I might be interested in checking out some of the other works and the other storylines, because I know they're all very different, and a lot of people have told me the books get better as they go along. The later ones are better than the earlier ones. So I might check it out later, but I think I'll take a break from it for now and move on with other reading. But I am glad I tried it. It's something that I've been curious about for a long time. I know it's a very well-regarded standard fantasy series with lots of examples in it. I think 41 books. So it's something I wanted to try. But I think that of the partnership of Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, who wrote Good Omens, Neil Gaiman is my preferred author of those two. I think he has a little bit more of a sense of the human condition. I think his characters in works like Coraline or Stardust or The Graveyard Book, they have a lot more. There's darkness in there, and there's humor there, and there's some of the human condition. You really feel like the characters are real and they're going through something. And I think he succeeds at that kind of storytelling a little bit better than Pratchett does. So I'll continue to read Neil Gaiman books, and I may or may not continue to read Terry Pratchett books. But I just wanted to share my thoughts on humor and literature in general, and the Discworld series in particular, the one book I've read out of the series anyway. If you have recommendations for other books in the series that I should check out, if maybe I got off to a bad start and you think I should read something else to revise my opinion, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that. And until then, I've been Logan Albright, and it's been very pleasant talking to you. I hope you will like and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you next time.